promising prospect coming out of Dagestan, at a time when Khabib hasn't yet made his imprint. A feeble kid raised by a single mother who defied all the odds of being stuck in a wheelchair and became a world champion in combat sambo. A man who ended up becoming a murderer when a teenager that he punched in a nightclub fell and hit his head on the concrete. A man who once again received a second shot at life after getting the murder charge dropped to manslaughter and only doing 1 year of jail time. This is the story of Rasul Mirzaev. On this cursed night, one man's life changed forever, and another man's life tragically ended. At 4 a.m. right outside of a famed nightclub called Garage in Moscow, Rasul was standing with his girlfriend Alla and 6 other friends. Nearby was a 19-year-old Ivan Agafonov who was also standing with some of his friends. Ivan was remotely controlling a toy car. He drove the car into Rasul's girlfriend Alla and said a word that can be interpreted 2 different ways in Russian. What he said can be understood as, "I'm taking your picture," or it can be understood as, "I'm renting you," as if you were a prostitute as well. Befuddled, and probably understanding the phrase in the most negative way possible, Rasul asks, "How about you try renting me instead, if you think you can?" To which Ivan boldly replied, "If I want to, I'll do that to you as well." That's when Rasul walked up to him and delivered the punch that changed his entire destiny. Ivan fell and hit his head on the concrete, dying not too long after being struck. What is crazy about this situation is that Ivan Agafonov also had pending court cases for robbery which he attempted with 2 of his friends. The local prosecutor wanted Agafonov jailed until the verdict but was denied by the judge. Had the prosecutor been successful, Ivan most likely would still be alive, or at least not die at that moment at Rasul's hands. We should also note that aside from numerous court cases on his record, Ivan was also a large man standing almost 6'7" tall, and also trained in martial arts, although obviously not to the level that Rasul is. For comparison's sake, Rasul is barely 5'6" tall. We're detailing all of this not in order to justify Rasul's actions, but to provide context, as this story was used by the Russian media in order to fuel ethnic strifes between ethnic Russians and Caucasians. Many news outlets described Ivan as simply a teenage college student, while failing to mention his criminal record, frame, and combat abilities. According to Rasul, he simply did not think that Ivan would fall like that and hit his head. Due to the fire created by the Russian media, there was a huge public outcry to jail Rasul for as long as possible. During the case, he was granted and then denied bail multiple times. However, almost half a year after the incident while jailed, on January 12, 2012, it became known that the charge against Mirzaev was changed to a less serious one, to Article 109 of the Criminal Code of the Russian Federation, the charge of causing death by negligence, which in the Western world is roughly the equivalent of a manslaughter charge. On August 8, 2012, during the judicial debate, the prosecutor asked the court to reclassify the charge and sentence the defendant to 2 years of restriction of freedom, taking into account the time he spent in custody. According to experts whose opinions were announced during the trial, Mirzaev's blow was of small force and was not in a direct causal relationship with Agafonov's death, which occurred from hemorrhage, skull fracture, and cerebellar crushing caused by his head hitting the concrete. The court was supposed to make a decision on the case on August 14th, but the judge decided to question the expert who gave an opinion on the absence of a direct connection between Mirzaev's blow and Agafonov's death. So he decided to return the case to the investigation stage. 2 days later, the judge ordered yet another re-examination. On November 27, 2012, the results of the 5th examination were announced, which established that there was no direct connection between Mirzaev's strike and Agafonov's death. As a result, the state prosecutor changed the charge to a less serious one, causing death by negligence. The court sentenced Mirzaev to 2 years of restriction of freedom and released him right at the sentencing, since 1 day of imprisonment in a pre-trial detention center is equivalent to 2 days of time served. Thus, at the time of sentencing, Rasul had fully served the sentence imposed by the court. As soon as Rasul was released, several major promotional companies announced that they were ready to enter into new contracts with Rasul. His former coach, owner of the Fight Night's global organization, Khabib Nurmagomedov, stated his desire to help him restore his physical fitness. The The senior coach of the Russian national combat sambo team, Alexander Konakov, reported in January 2013 that Mirzaev began training immediately after his release, and Kamil Gadzhiev said that Mirzaev would be able to return to his previous form after 6 months. Meanwhile, mixed martial arts coach Abdul Mamatov said that Mirzaev will most likely participate only in those championships that take place outside of Russia, since in Russia the public may be highly outraged to see him perform after causing the death of Ivan Agafonov. After his release from custody, Mirzaev immediately began to prepare for a title fight, an agreement on which was reached before the start of the criminal case. Preparations for the battle took place over 4 months in Derbent, Dagestan. On March 31, 2013, as part of the Great Battle Tournament, Mirzaev had a title fight against the world champion in Pankration, Kazakhstani Ersan Estanov. By unanimous decision of the judges, victory in the 3-round fight was awarded to Mirzaev. In his winning speech, Rasul Mirzaev said that he wanted to dedicate this victory to my family, the team, as well as his native Dagestan and Russia. In October 2013, at the Darer MMA tournament in Thailand, the Russian fighter met Briton James Savely in a 3-round fight. The judges unanimously awarded the victory to Mirzaev. In June 2015, Rasul Mirzaev defeated Pole Sebastian Romanowski as part of Battle 19. Throughout the entire fight, Mirzaev had a significant advantage and defeated his opponent in the 3rd round. However, this is when Rasul's life was about to take another crazy turn. On November 2016, Rasul Mirzaev suffered the first defeat in his professional career. At the Fights Night's Global 54 tournament, Rasul Mirzaev lost by unanimous decision to Levon Makashvili. His first professional loss almost acted as some sort of a grim premonition as to what was about to happen to Rasul just 1 month after this loss. If you have enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the channel, as we have a lot of people that view and like our videos, but don't subscribe. We will be bringing more interesting content throughout, so you don't want to miss out. So please subscribe and press the bell notification. See you soon. Celebrating New Year's Eve at his apartment, news come out that Rasul Mirzaev was brutally beaten to near death and shot with a pneumatic pistol by a group of young men who entered his apartment and then went into hiding. Rasul was rushed to ICU, and police began the search for the assailants. Due to the nature of the extreme violence, we will only show parts of the footage from the assault and heavily modify it. Now, let's pause and rewind. Why did an attack so brutal that it could have killed Rasul occurred in the first place?